No matter where you go along the length and breadth of the Murray Darling Basin, there's passionate debate over the future of the nation's food bowl. At issue, of course, is the fair allocation of water, the lifeblood, not only of farm enterprises, but the communities they help sustain. And in irrigation areas like Finley in southern New South Wales, they're taking more than just an academic interest in the outcome of the latest public consultation process, as Peter McCutcheon reports.
When it comes to townships like Finley in southern New South Wales, water is a make or break commodity.
It's a small community of about 2,000 people, like most of the towns in irrigation areas, and it's totally reliant on irrigated agriculture around here.
It's easy to guess what most people here feel about the latest Murray Darling Basin plan to cut back on water extraction from the mighty river system. But some of the most compelling testimony in defence of this community's lifeblood is coming from an unlikely source, the local high school. Is it difficult to speak to out on an issue that's not directly connected to your job?
Well, some people might see it that way, Peter. I don't think so at all. I mean, I see it is directly connected to us in the sense that I see on a daily basis the issues I have working with a school whose population continues to fall at a fairly alarming rate, and a lot of that can be tied to policy that's currently in place and potentially will be in place. So it does affect our daily life.
Bernie Roebuck is the Finley High's principal, and during the last summer holidays he did something most teachers would run away from. He spoke up at a public meeting to discuss the Murray Darling Basin plan.
You might well ask, what's the Murray Darling Basin plan got to do with school principals? In truth, heaps.
The Finley High School principal went on to describe the social impacts of water reform with a plea to bureaucrats and politicians.
I implore you not to be so naive as to think that the people of these communities are unreasonable or unimportant. Thank you.
The response was extraordinary. A standing ovation for a speech that Water Minister Tony Burke said would stay with him for life. Were you surprised by the response to your speech at Deniliquin?
Absolutely. I don't pretend to be anybody of any importance. I'm just a normal bloke who's got a great love of rural communities. My family's grown up here, and we've been enjoyed the fact that my kids have grown up here, and it's been a great place for them to grow up.
Bernie's speech was one of those profoundly important speeches that you occasionally bump into over your years in public life. Everyone, I think, celebrates the fact that the hope for Australia is in our young people, and as a school principal, he was expressing the hope that there's got to be more for our kids.
Burn the plan! Burn the plan!
Turn the clock back to 2010 and there was quite a different mood at the Murray Darling Basin Authority public meeting in Griffith. The authority went back to the drawing board and last November brought out Draft Plan Mark II. It set a figure for returning water to the environment, 2,750 gigalitres, that was condemned by the green groups as far too low, but still troubled irrigators.
They did reduce the figure slightly, but at the end of the day, it's still a huge quantity of water to come out of regions like ours here in the Murray Valley. Stuart Ellis is the chair of Murray Irrigation Limited, a group scheme supplying water to 2,400 farms through a channel system of some 3,000 kilometres. Although he welcomes the authority's emphasis on infrastructure upgrades rather than buybacks of water licences, he says the community is still deeply worried. If 40 or 50% of our water entitlements are sold, go back to government for environmental purposes, there's a huge challenge for us to be able to deliver affordable water to those farmers who remain. That's an issue that Phil Snowden is grappling with. This Riverina irrigator has invested heavily in the latest technology and is something of an innovator.
We put it on the bale at ground level. It's 7 or 8 kilos, very easy to handle, doesn't matter if it's windy or whatever else. Simply slide it on the bale.
Winning his segment on ABC TV's New Inventors program for his idea of making recycled covers for haystacks. Although there will be no compulsory buybacks of water entitlements, this irrigator based just south of Finley says those who remain could face higher charges.
The impact of the basin plan as it sits at the moment, there's been over 20% of water gone out of the district now. Yeah, I don't know what the end figure will be, but the cost to the remaining irrigators here will be unsustainable. You've got truck drivers, you've got supply businesses. My son works as an apprentice mechanic in there. All of those sort of jobs, if the water goes, they go.
90% of small businesses are totally reliant on irrigated agriculture. So any exiting of water will have a direct impact on small business, whether it be Finley, Deniliquin or wherever.
One of those local businesses that rely almost totally on irrigation is Deniliquin Freighters. Business is picking up after a long drought, but there's still a lingering sense of uncertainty.
It's a difficult situation to deal with because there's no black and white. There's no black and white answers with the Murray Darling Basin.
The company's managing director, Russell Tait, says the community is bracing for what he calls a government-induced drought.
You're not going to make the communities more vibrant, by flooding environmental water everywhere, every year. Communities become vibrant and maintain their stability through industry within those communities. And I mean, what industry is there from running environmental water down?
And this brings us back to Finley High School and explains why Bernie Roebuck is so passionate about the Murray Darling Basin plan. How difficult has it been for you as a teacher and a headmaster to stick your head up in the dangerous world of irrigation politics?
Personally, I don't think it's been dangerous at all or difficult because the livelihood of my students, my parents, and in effect my own family has potentially been affected by it. We were up till recently homeowners, so there was a personal reason to be involved in that apart from anything else. But the fact of the matter is that in my daily work, that virtually everybody that's involved in the school in some way in this part of the world is going to be affected by it, if they're not affected by it already.
When Bernie Roebuck first worked at Finley High in 1990, there were 700 students enrolled. Today, there are just 430.
That drop can be attributed to a whole range of factors, not just water policy, a lot of other factors that affect rural areas as well. So it's a huge issue for us, and schools need to be a certain size so that we can offer our students a full range of educational opportunities. If we get to a point in time when the school is very, very small, that will limit the options we can afford our students. And I don't want to be part of a system where our students and our community get some sort of second-rate education. That's not acceptable to me, it's not acceptable to my community, nor should it be acceptable to the Australian community.
And his pitch to the Basin Authority was that governments couldn't assume a healthier river would automatically mean a healthier rural economy.
I think I made the point that, for example, we're building a national broadband network, $40, $50 billion, so this country has got the technology for the 21st century. Our irrigation system was built 60, 70, 80 years ago. It's way behind the 8 ball. If we could create an irrigation system that was 21st century, it would be a fraction of the cost of the NBN and yet could deliver all sorts of positive outcomes for the community, for the environment and for the farmers.
Downstream along the Murray River, and the politics about the Murray Darling Basin plan isn't quite as intense. Hundreds of grape growers in the Sunraysia district have left the industry over the past few years because of commodity prices rather than water policy. Although some tension was on display during the Basin Authority's recent public meeting in Mildura.
If people continue to sell the people that are left behind, and that's what I'm worried about, the people that are left behind, have got to pick up a bigger piece of the burden. And yous don't clearly understand that one bloody iota.
But the main concern in this region, according to the chair of the Murray Valley Wine Grape Growers, is how the authority will manage all the additional environmental water that goes into the Murray-Darling system, all 2,750 gigalitres.
There's still no plan for the use of the environmental water. We've also got plans for how we're allowed to use our water, but they're going to take a very big lick of water, and to not have a plan for that and expect us to all sign up to it, I think is really asking a fair bit.
The real key is going to be in the monitoring and evaluation of what's in the kitty at the moment. That's where people will say this is a good idea or a bad idea, and that's something they haven't fully committed to, in my opinion.
Wine grape grower Howard Jones is a bit of a maverick in this debate, because although he echoes the concerns of many farmers about how the environmental water will be used, he nonetheless endorses the authority's draft plan.
The basin plan is something we need. There will be some impacts on it, but it's far better to have an impact than have a river basin that's not going to function, because it's our fundamental resource.
But in Finley, heavily reliant on irrigation with few obvious economic alternatives, that argument is harder to sell. Although Bernie Roebuck, the man who irrigators stood and applauded, believes there is more common ground than many believe. The whole point of the basin plan is to improve the health of the river system and the health and sustainability of local communities. Why do you think that argument isn't cutting through?
Oh, look, I think that argument does cut through here. I think people fail to understand that. I don't think I've met an irrigator yet who doesn't talk about sustainability as being a really vital part of their operation. I think people want to be involved in that discussion. But just to essentially have a point of view that farmers alone are responsible for this is just nonsense. And we've got to go beyond that sort of discussion.